and think about a house where we lived, catchment area and that sort of thing.
I don't think the middle class are the most unhappy class. I just think they're the best at moaning.
Moaning middle classes as if. No, smart plan is to admit to being middle class but play up your working class roots. Boast that you had to break the ice in your outside loo. Get some credibility that way. Pretend you were brought up in a paper bag, preferably in the north.
You get a room full of people, you say, what class are you? Most people would say, most ordinary people would say, working class. It's a badge of honour, isn't it? See, inverted snobbery, it's the kind of, oh no, yeah, I've made a few quid, I've got a nice house, the kids got a private school, but you know what, my dad used to work shifts.
Even though we're quite obviously all terribly middle class these days, there are still people that will become ridiculously boring about the fact that they're working class or that they come from somewhere in North Englandfordshire.
We used to live in this tiny old tumble-down house with great big holes in the roof.
House? You were lucky to live in a house. We used to live in one room, all 26 of us, no furniture, half the floor was missing. We're all huddled together in one corner for fear of falling.
You were lucky to have a room. We used to have to live in the corridor.
Oh, we used to dream of living in a corridor.
We were always considered ourselves working class posh. That was what we were. You know, we had pot noodle, but we had it on a plate. We had our chip butties in triangles. We got the big issue delivered. That was how we worked.
I do come from a very working class background, and it's not, you know, there's no scandal in our family. There was never a time when somebody had to sell the family silver. So it's not like I had to worry that nothing's been passed down. There was nothing to pass down. The only thing passed down in our family was a propensity to put on weight around the jowls, I would suppose, but, you know, and a love of a battered sausage.
Get Gyro.
Yep, and the child allowance.
Right, how much is it?
180 quid.
Brilliant. 180 lottery tickets, please, Radley.
The single biggest difference, I would imagine, between the working class and the middle class when it comes to money is, you know, the working class would spend the last quid on a scratch card because that might make the middle class. And the middle class, the last thing they would do is buy a scratch card because that would make them working class.
Now that being working class is so fashionable, and the poorer the better, it's quite hard to define what working class actually is. In the old days, it was easy. They went to work in a factory in identical flat caps. They came home to their tea and lived in black and white cobbled streets. How quaint. Easier still, all you had to do to find out whether someone was working class was to ask what their father did.
What does your daddy do?
My father is a doctor.
A doctor? What does your daddy do?
He's a machine minder, sir. He's a chauffeur, sir.
A chauffeur?
Yes. He's a solicitor, sir. He's a postman, sir. He's a lighterman.
A lighterman?
Sir. He's a plasterer, sir.
But now plasterers earn more than solicitors and plumbers earn more in a day than middle managers earn in a week. Trade, as it used to be called, is suddenly the new posh.
It used to be really easily understandable what class you were in by your job. If you were a bricklayer, you were working class. If you were a doctor, you were middle class. If you worked in finance or you were an explorer or a basket weaver, then you were upper class. But now it's been completely turned upside down.
It used to be that if somebody said they were, say, a carpenter or a gardener, that almost by definition meant they were working class. But I mean now, maybe I'm talking specifically about North London, but I mean half the so-called gardeners I meet are actually sort of Theon Toby something or other. I mean, they're always a sort of thicko younger son of some aristocratic.
So the children of the middle class go to university and do media studies, and then if they're lucky, they get a job as a runner for a TV company, earning 120 quid a week, if they're lucky, and having to make the tea. Whereas the ones who go to plumbing school and learn how to do something useful are earning 50 grand a year.
Forget people's jobs defining their class now. Better to look at someone's postcode to place them in a class category. Exactly where you live and what sort of house or flat or loft or apartment you live in is critical. The class clues are all there if you know where to look. It's so much more complicated than upper, middle and lower. It's more A1, B1, C1, C2, apparently. And then you have to look at what's inside someone's house to do an accurate class reading.
I think possibly the C1 furnishing is more akin to AB. The C2 perhaps tend to go in for...
Oh, shiny kind of furniture,
Yes.
veneered furniture.
Modern.
And china dogs on the mantelpiece, this kind of
Ducks
thing.
in flight on the wall.
Artificial flowers, ghastly plastic flowers, this kind of thing.
I never make rash judgments about people's houses based on their furniture at all.
OK, so your house is the big giveaway, and what you put in your house and how you arrange it all is critical class-wise. First big class dilemma, what to do with your windows. Nothing to do with keeping daylight out, and everything to do with social status, apparently.
Do you have shutters or do you have net curtains? Those are the defining minutiae now of the new class-less society.
If you have lots heavily patterned carpets, common as muck. Unless they're rugs, in which case it's fine. The further up the income scale you go, solid coloured carpets or seagrass matting.
Well, there used to be a floor covering rule amongst certain kinds of upper middle class people that wood must show. What they meant was fitted carpets are terrible, fitted carpets are naff.
I think an absolute rule of thumb is you cannot have anything in a house pretending to be something else. So, for example, if you want lino in your kitchen, that's fine, but you don't have lino with a tile pattern on it. So what is it, lino or is it pretend tiles? You mustn't have anything that's pretending to be something else.
But you can get clever with floors. Take an ordinary floor, class it up. Buy a croquet set. Have to cover up the Harrods sign, that's too vulgar. Get a gym bag, posh school scarf, some riding stuff, green wellies. Now it's a marvellous toff corner. Shelves are tricky, videos v bad, books v good. Bung in loads of them. Doesn't matter if you haven't read half of them, makes you look clever.
If your walls are painted white with a hint of sisal, and right over in the far corner is one chair, posh, or possibly wanker, I don't know.
Of course, the exception to this is the irony rule, which is a good rule to cite if you find you've dropped a class clanger. Claim your garden gnomes or flying ducks are ironic, but you have to tell people you're being ironic, otherwise it doesn't work. People just think you have no taste.
What's anybody doing with a jukebox in their house? Oh, no, that's kind of 70s ironic. No, that just makes you look like Alvin Stardust.
The irony rule doesn't work with names, of course. Your position on the class scale is scarily visible because it gives away your birth class for all to see.
Oh, I think we all know a posh Christian name when we get it. It's Piers and Peregrine.
Upper class names that will always be upper class will be Sebastian,
Arabella, Susanna, Fiona.
Tarquin, Tabitha, Sebastian.
Or they have nicknames. Mindy, Bunty, Nemo. It was fun, you know, because the thing is that when I was very, very, very little, we had a nanny and she didn't know how to pronounce my name. So we just, you know, I'm getting what?
Posh names end in O, don't they? Hugo, Milo, Rollo.
Middle class names end in E. Katie, Phoebe, Emily.
Josh and Tom and Jack.
Working class names will often sort of land with a thud. Jade. Or their place names. Chelsea.
Kylie, Wayne.
Snobbish? Us? Surely not. We pretend that class doesn't matter to us, that it's a pointlessly outdated badge system, but we're all guilty of class consciousness, be honest.
My mother was actually hysterical, probably the biggest snob I've ever known. And I remember when I was about 15, she said to me, you can marry outside your nationality, marry outside your religion, but for God's sake, don't marry outside your class.
But should you wish to be the class police, what are the sort of interrogation techniques you need to learn?
There's a lot of feeling around. People do, without exactly saying, what sort of house do you live in? And what do you do? And how much money you earn?
Where does she live? What does her father do?
And if you live there, do you know the exes?
Whereabouts in Battersea? Just off near the bridge.
Does it take you very long to get to work from there? I mean, where do you work?
Is it a Georgian house? Is it a Georgian house? Is it a Georgian house or is it a terrace?
It's quite a long way from the city, for instance, isn't it? From Enfield.
Which end of the terrace? Is it that end? By the garage?
How is it at the weekend, or are you there at the weekends? Meaning, have you got a house in the country?